Google's latest A-series entry is a confusing device from a value standpoint, and it gets even worse when you compare it directly with the well-established Pixel 8. Here's why. Here is the current Google Pixel pricing structure. The Pixel 8 is closer in cost to the cheaper model than it is the full Fat Pro. This means that the 8A needs to be pretty great to command such a high price tag, or at least one that's so close to the regular model. This is no longer a budget option. From a distance and when squinting, the Pixel 8 and 8A look pretty similar with the same basic style, size and shape. Even the core processor, the Google Tensor G3, and the RAM and storage options at 8 and 128 or 256GB respectively, it's all looking pretty samey, which is a win for the cut down model. It means you're getting features of the pricier phone, but for less money. And generally, I found the performance on both to be pretty much the same. Neither are kings of gaming or are powerhouses full stop. Tensor still has a little while to go before it can properly compete with the flagship Qualcomm Snapdragon chips, such as what's found in the 12R, but both are snappy and zippy moving around the OS, switching apps, and yes, you can play 3D titles on here. In my benchmark testing, I found there to be about a 2 to 3% performance delta in favour of the regular 8. However, take this with a pinch of salt, as benchmarks really don't tell most of the story, and in reality, I really can't feel a difference between the two. Possibly helped by the fact that both devices don 120Hz OLED screens. The Pixel 8's panel is actually 0.1 of an inch bigger despite its slightly smaller frame, and that is thanks to the much thinner bezels. We'll get into build in a second, but this is where you can start to see the real corner cutting to achieve the lower price. On paper, these panels really don't seem that different. The same 120Hz refresh rate, same 2000 nits claimed peak brightness, and the same Full HD Plus resolution. However, in panel quality, there is a big difference. Not only is the Pixel 8's display brighter than the 8A in my personal experience, with the manual slider whacked all the way up to 100%, but by default my 8A unit also has considerably cooler colour temperature to the whites, and when you hold the phone off axis, the 8A's viewing angles start to really fall apart, with a lot of colour shifting all over the display. Is this a deal breaker? Well, it's going to depend on you, but it is a noticeable difference. Just like the feeling in the hand, you feel the plastic back, you feel the thicker bezels, and you feel the slightly wider profile. This is another one of those things that you can't really experience through a screen or on a spec sheet. The Pixel 8A feels cheap, especially when compared with the dense feeling and sleek Pixel 8. And I will add that the shallower camera bump is nice, as it means that it's less likely to get caught on your pocket when you take it in and out. You'll also notice that the Pixel 8 has a higher IP rating over the Pixel 8As, meaning the pricier phone can withstand a bit more of a dip when things go south. Again, some people really might not care about these differences, but it does add up to the quality delta between the two phones. Another big difference is the camera hardware. The Pixel 8A retains the same 64 megapixel main camera, 13 megapixel ultra-wide and 13 megapixel front cameras as the Pixel 7A from last year. Compare that with the 50 megapixel main and the faster lens, the bigger 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor and the 10.5 megapixel selfie shooter on the regular 8, and there is a meaningful difference to the hardware found on the 8 and the 8A. But what does all of this mean in the real world? Well, starting with the main camera, there is more dynamic range. With the regular 8, you can see more detail across the scenes with harsh lighting, such as midday on a sunny day where you'll have really dark shadows and a really bright sky. I also think sometimes the colours seem to be a little bit more true to life, with a more accurate white balance with the regular 8. This is much closer between the two than the dynamic range tests. Although neither Pixels have a dedicated telephoto camera, they do allow you to pinch all the way up to 8 times on the main sensor. When you do this, there is a clear difference in quality. The 8's image might look duller on the surface, but actually when you look, there is an insane amount of artificial sharpening employed by the 8A. So actually what you're seeing is a more true to life, sharper image with the Pixel 8. With the 8A, you get splodgy artifacts in the long-range images. Making out details like text, for example, in a zoomed-in image is far easier with the regular phone. In low light, the 8A was more eager to automatically switch to night sight than the 8, which most of the time just stayed in its regular mode, and in night sight did actually outperform the 8A as well. But when switching to the ultra-wide in night photos, they really did trade blows and it was a much, much tougher call. And actually with the ultra-wide cameras in regular light, the 8A's unit seemed to deal with flaring better, has a hair wider field of view by the looks of things, so if getting everything in the frame is really important to you, then I'd probably go with the 8A. And the 8's ultra-wide is good, but the 8A's ultra-wide just seemed to outperform it in my opinion. The selfie cameras are a strange setup. The 8's 0.7 times is the same field of view as the 8A's 1 times, and then the 8's 1 times is the same field of view as the 1.4 times on the 8A. Really not sure what's going on here, but what I can tell you is that the 8A's selfie shooter seems to be a tad sharper in good light, and in low light it really struggles compared to the regular phone. And there's some aggressive denoising happening on things to really smooth things out. It doesn't look good. Both phones do portrait mode really well. I couldn't tell a massive difference between the two in this regard, and that makes sense given that both use Google's algorithms, servers and software. The cutouts are pretty good most of the time, but as with pretty much all the portrait modes out there, there isn't a 100% hit rate. You are going to hit some duds. And moving over to video, the quality disparity really shows itself, and it's only the main cameras where both phones can shoot at the full Ultra HD 4K at 60 FPS. Switching to the ultra wides and the selfie cameras for video, the 8A maxes out at Ultra HD 30 FPS. This might be a deal breaker for those looking to get the highest quality smartphone video, but this compromise does also make sense given the price difference. Overall, I did find the 8's video to look the most natural with its HDR tone mapping and its colours. It seems to deal with the environmental and subject changes the best of the two, so as a camera package I'd definitely go with the regular 8. The 8A's just isn't a big enough upgrade over last year. When you want to edit your photos, both phones have you covered with Google's magic editing tools, be that Magic Eraser, Top Shot, Audio Eraser, and from a software standpoint overall, these phones will both receive updates going into 2031, with Pixels being some of the first Android phones to receive those big major upgrades. I'm pleased to see Google catering to its A-series customers from a long-term usability standpoint, with this longevity parity having been put in place. That's a tongue twister. Funnily enough, I found there to also be parity in the battery life. On paper, the 8 rocks a slightly larger battery, we're talking less than a 2% difference, and in person, both phones get me a full day of usage. You'll want to go for the 8 Pro if you want your phone to definitely last you 2 days on a charge. Being such small phones, neither the 8 nor the 8A really have the capacity for 2 full days unless you're a mega light user, in which case 2 days is doable, but I really wouldn't count on it. And you're not getting silly fast charging with either of these either, but the 27 watt wide setup on the 8 is noticeably faster than the 18 watts on the 8A, and the same goes for the 18 watt wireless charging on the 8 over the 7.5 wireless on the 8A. I just wish Google had priced the 8A $100 less, even $50 less would make the 8A look like a better value for money smartphone. Because, in my opinion, the far better builds, the cleaner display, the faster charging, the more capable cameras are really genuinely worth $200. And with the Pixel 8 regularly on sale at up to $150 off, making it just $50 more than the Pixel 8A, the 8A starts to make even less sense. Let me be clear, the 8A is a good phone, but if it was up to me, I'd pony up for the regular 8 and try and find one on a deal because it just makes better sense. Let me know what you think about this head-to-head in the comments. I can see why some people might go with the 8A for its compromises, but ultimately, for me, what the regular model brings is important. Hit like if you enjoyed today's content, and subscribe if you're new around here to never miss another video. I've been Ryan Thomas with Android Police, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.